Mr. Shleifman.
Mr. Slavens.
What's cooking, bud?
Not much.
Glad
to be here. Glad to be here.
Is the microphone okay for you?
Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, that's
awesome.
better.
Okay.
So I appreciate you being here. This is my first attempt at a podcast, and who better to have than you? I've never actually even listened to a podcast, so I'm not even sure what the objective is, but we put this thing together, so I'm going to give it a shot.
I think... Well, I think, the objective of any podcast is just to have an open discussion and, talk about interesting topics. And, hopefully people like what you have to say.
100%. Well, I'm going to try and keep them real estate themed.
Yeah, I know. But, you got to throw in a little. People like to hear some stuff that's,
100%. 100%. So, as this is a dry run, which maybe we will put out there, maybe we won't, I'll start with some real estate questions. So you started in 2008, right?
The beginning of 2009, the good old mortgage crisis.
Right.
Of 2009.
So the crisis was in 2008.
It started in the fall, right? The fall of 2000.
So you started pretty much at the worst time imaginable.
Yes. And the sentiment at that time was,
what are you doing? Are you fucking
crazy?
Nuts?
Like, what are you doing? Like,
why are you getting into real estate?
Okay, way to go. Way to get into an industry that's obviously, clearly
on its way down.
Yep.
So it bears the question, do you see any similarities between what you experienced in 2008 compared to what you're seeing now? Or 2009, I should say, and what you're seeing now?
Well, I think for me personally, one of the biggest differences is that at that point I really didn't have any expectations. I was new. I didn't have clients. I didn't know, what to expect as far as, what I consider to be a successful year. What does that look like? So, obviously was a little nervous because
you were giving up a salary too to come into this industry.
Yes. And, I was recently married. We wanted to buy a house. But I also knew that I was in a sort of dead end. Like I needed, I was not going to go anywhere quickly where I was. That was not where I was meant to be. So, whereas now it's very different. You got 2 kids.
Now you got bills.
8 and 11, lots of fixed expenses. Kids are expensive, giving them a lifestyle that, you dream of. That you would have liked when you were a kid. So yeah, it's the level of stress is very different.
Now so that's you personally, but do you see, well, I guess you wouldn't have had the knowledge to know.
I didn't know. Listen, all I knew was like, okay, I'm in real estate.
Okay. So any kid coming into real estate or any new agent coming into real estate today, they're getting fed the same stuff. Are you nuts? You're getting into real estate now. What advice would you have for that new agent coming into the business today and people are telling them, what are you, nuts? You're coming into real estate now? That's insane.
Well, it's funny because obviously I think I can speak for you as well, was, when you started as well, like, we started with, rental clients, right? Like right off the bat, that was the sort of the easiest way to meet people was to start off doing leases. Sure. Open houses, obviously, back in the day were the most significant source of new business, yeah. Especially for new agents. Yeah. I can say today, like, yes, we're now sort of post-COVID. Most of us don't even talk about COVID. It's a non-issue, even though it still exists. But, I still feel like from the public's perspective, I just, I don't know if for new agents starting out, like whether they're going to have those same opportunities that I had because of just, society and...
Well, open houses haven't bounced back like you would have expected them to.
No. So it is, looking back, I mean, the one thing that I had that, a lot of these people may not have was that I still had a storefront that was a resource that I was still able to, as I was transitioning out.
About Papergrafix.
Yeah, as I was transitioning out, I would, meet these young couples that were getting married, and, we'd have those conversations, and then I'd try to transition that in, like, oh, I'm in real estate, and like, what are you looking for? So I was
remember that
lucky.
actually. Saturdays, you would still go and
I had
work
to.
in the
I
shop.
had to. You know what? It was too much of a risk to just jump right in.
Okay, so but when I meet with agents today, particularly ones that are getting into the business, I tell them it's got to be full time. Sure, there are some agents that are transitioning out of another industry or another job, but our brokerage, for example, will not hire part-time agents unless we know that the goal is to transition out of their job into this full-time. We won't touch them because this industry has become an industry where if you're not focused 1,000% of your time on this industry, you cannot succeed. There is no room for part-time agents anymore.
I agree with you 100%. And I mean, I experienced that, and that was sort of one of the trigger moments where I realized that I can't do both. Being at the store, servicing the clients that are there, and then all of a sudden seeing your phone ring. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, okay, if you want this new career to take a dick move.
Fuck you.
Fucker.
It's the crowd. I gotta play with the new toys. Yeah, keep going.
So
you're not bored.
To your point, you have to, because I realized that I couldn't be a PG.
Are we allowed to smoke while we do this?
I would hope so. Anyway, so yes, I agree with you, and if you're going to make it today, you've got to be 24/7. You've got to make people believe that you're 24/7. You got to make people believe that you're busy, because it is
Fake
cutthroat.
it till you make it.
Yeah, it's cutthroat. There's so many options. We all go through the ups and downs of, clients that we thought we did a great job for, and the next thing you know, they're using somebody else. So I think for any new agent, if you're not giving it, 120%, then they're going to find another option. Like, nobody wants to work with somebody who they're like, oh, so you're there, but I want to go see this now. Like, no.
Okay, so we've talked a lot, but we haven't managed to answer the question that I asked, which is, what advice would you give somebody new coming into the industry? What I mean by that is, can someone be successful in this market? And I think the answer is yes. I've been telling people that I think this is a once-in-a-career opportunity, that difficult markets are the market to make your bones in. If you can be successful, and I know people said this to you back in 2009, that's why I'm asking you the question is, if you can be successful in the market that we're in and we're going to be in for a while, then when things turn and become a seller's market again, you are going to set yourself up for a career like you wouldn't believe.
Agreed. I mean, but I think that translates to any industry. Every situation creates opportunities, and the hungry, the driven ones will find opportunities. I think for young agents, it's really important their network around them. You got to leverage that. Listen, sales.
I'm a big database guy. Like, listen, I'll tell you, because you don't get the benefit of speaking to a lot of new agents. When I interview with them, the thing that drives me fucking nuts is that everybody's always asking about leads. How many leads are you going to give me? What's the lead situation? Not one person comes in and asks, how are you going to teach me to get leads? And that's what this business is entirely about, is learning how to get business.
Get business and then convert it to, you can get that lead and do nothing with it, 100%, right? And then convert that into a tangible, client-agent relationship. Listen, it's not easy. As I said, there are a lot of options, but I think, as you said earlier, having a great database and using that database to try to drum up business is where you have to start. And sure, some people are just, there's also in this industry, I don't care who you are, everybody needs a little bit of luck here and there.
100%.
And sometimes you have somebody that's willing to give you that chance. Now we, as agents who have been in, now I can say I've been in the industry for well over 10 years, you always question, like, why would they go with this rookie who doesn't know anything about the market? Like, why wouldn't they want an experienced agent? But there are people out there, everybody needs a break, and that's how you learn. I think the other thing that's really different now from when I started was the mentality where brokerage, agents and brokerages would all go to agent open houses. That was very popular. Like I remember when you used to take me, there would be like at some of these houses, there would be like 50 agents coming through.
Sure.
And you would network with them. And now you're lucky if you get, 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Right.
I had an agent's open house today. I had yesterday I had one agent
right.
come through.
And sometimes, for you, it's like it's your agents from your brokerage. Right. So I think the mentoring process, like I had the luxury that you took me around and you allowed me to sit in when you had an offer presentation. How else do you get that experience without actually, but nowadays nobody has time or nobody wants to do it. So I really, listen, I realized that I was in a very fortunate position, but these are things that I think young agents have to just, don't be afraid to ask somebody, do you mind if I come and, do a showing with you and see like how you interact with your client.
You got to be at a brokerage where that is
right, where there is this like, listen,
that environment
we're all competing,
exists.
but we're also a family.
Yeah,
and I'm happy to help you if I can, teach you something. Great.
Well,
But-
let's be honest. I mean, a lot of the times an older, more established agent wants to help because they can get something out of it as well, right?
Well,
An
that's
opportunity,
too. Sure.
Listing, some way convert that into money. You said something earlier, which leads me to the question of, so at some point in your career, you decided to join a team. And that's another question that I'm often asked. Are there teams? Can I join a team? How do I get on a team? What's the deal with teams? So what led you to the decision of joining a team? You're on the Sabrina Kaufman team, for those that don't know. And it's one of the best teams in the city, which is great for you.
The best.
Yeah.
The best.
And but what was the thought process? Why did you join a team? What led you to that?
Well, it can be a very lonely experience when you're on your own, especially, when you go through periods of inactivity and stuff. It's, to create a productive week for yourself, when you don't have clients or you're, and you're just sort of hoping to get like somebody's open house. So, for me, it got to a point where I was really consistent in what I was earning, but I just wasn't able, in my opinion, to get over that hump. How am I going to get over that hump that I can support my kids, pay for my mortgage, go away and just enjoy?
You were doing well. You just wanted to get to a whole other level.
And, honestly, I think for a lot of, agents at that stage where all of a sudden you're in your mid to late 30s, you've got to be able to squash whatever ego you have, because once you get on somebody's team, it's not about you. You're representing their brand.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're responsible for things that don't only pertain to your clients. So for me, it was, I put a little bit of thought in it. I spoke to a few people, including yourself, and I just knew that joining Sabrina could only help me. And the biggest thing that, my wife and I, when we discussed this opportunity, was like, what's the worst that can happen? You decide it doesn't work out, so you continue to work on your own. But let's say you don't take this opportunity and somebody else does, and then all of a sudden you see that their business has grown substantially, then what are you going to do? You've lost that opportunity. So for me, it was a win-win, because if it didn't work out, what was I losing? I wasn't losing anything. And, I can happily say that, I've been with Sabrina. I mean, I came into the business a year after her. We did our first deal together early on, and I just knew
there's not a lot of people, sorry to interrupt you, that can check their ego though. Like, I know for a fact I have a huge ego. It's a problem I work through, but not a lot of people can check that ego. So the fact that you could is, you're a team player, which is great.
Well, and listen, I still take some shots from, a core of agents out there who just, the idea that I work with all women, who's got your balls today. But at the end of the day, this is not about, again, it's about, earning a lifestyle that I can give to my family. That's what I care about. Like it's, but yes, I think in this industry, there is a lot of ego. Everybody thinks they're the best. Everybody, and unfortunately, a lot of us are fighting, for the same piece of that pie. I mean,
sure.
we have a lot of overlap.
Particularly in this community.
Yeah. So, but I still get a lot of flack from certain dicks in the industry, and but like, what, it doesn't bother me.
I guess too.
I'm, very confident. I know who I'm working with, and I think she's the best. She's she's the hardest worker. She's the smartest worker, and there's a reason why she's super successful,
so well. Yeah.
right?
You brought you
No.
brought up family, and this industry is a killer on family. Like, you brought up the fact that you discussed with your wife what you should do, and you've mentioned a number of times that it's all about providing your family with a certain lifestyle. I've lived this industry my entire life, like since birth. Like, my grandfather taught me to throw a ball. My mom took me to hockey games and got me dressed because my dad was in this industry and he was never around, particularly on weeknights, on weekends, and at nighttime. So it can be a killer on families for sure. How do you get around that? How do you deal with that? I guess it might be easier on a team. Certainly, that's why people start teams to, free up some time for themselves, which doesn't often end up happening because you get so much more busy that you can't deal with that. But like, how do you find the work-life balance?
Well, I think post-COVID, that has changed dramatically because prior to COVID, when you had if there was an offer presentation, I mean, this was, you'd be gone. You go to meet your clients, get the thing signed. But
do you miss that a little bit?
That excitement, yeah, but I don't miss sitting in my car for 4 hours,
really?
Waiting to hear if I got it in the dead of winter, where you're like, oh my God, I only have
I don't know. I
so
miss
much
it.
gas.
There was something exciting about it. Like, there was the ability to complain about it. The fact that, I remember sitting in my car freezing my ass off. That was fun though. Like, you'd be on the phone talking to people.
That's true. Well, then you'd watch oh, they're leaving. Nice, they're leaving.
You could fuck with other agents though.
Could.
Like, we totally fucked with agents when offer presentations were in person.
I will say this. I think that if you've got a good personality and you can, there was an advantage to sitting down with the sellers and their agent and trying to connect with those sellers, because guess what?
Good agent made all the difference.
And at the end of the day, that agent would come to me like, look, my clients really like you. Like, however I can help you, because they would love it if your clients were the one. Now, again, at the end of the day, if you couldn't give them what they wanted, but I found, I enjoyed that. I really did. I liked being in front of them. I liked being able to connect with them. Now it's just, I'm going to send you I'm just going to send you my offer, and it's just some random agent doing this. There's no connection to the seller. There's no way for you to communicate what you want to say about your client. You can tell the agent, but you have no idea what they even, pass that message along. So I do miss the in-person, but what that has done, to go back to your question regarding,
family,
is that I can be at home looking after my kids
and sell a $2 million house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I also find with post-COVID,
we used to joke though back in the day, like, if you needed to get out of the house, if you were going nuts, you wanted to kill your kids, you'd be like, oh, I gotta go do an offer, and then you just leave and pretend to do an offer and be hanging out at the office.
I will say that. That's the great thing about real estate. If you ever need to just get the fuck out, you can be like, hon, I got an appointment. Like, client's got to see this. Sorry, got to go.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? They're going to try to call the office to find out there's actually an appointment? No. So, but I do miss the in-person presentations, because I think that's where, we really earned our money, is in our ability to negotiate.
I don't think it's where we earned our money, but we could separate ourselves.
Sure.
There was an art to the presentation.
Yeah. Yes.
There was an art to the whole process of the presentation.
You could sit down with an offer that was not competitive, but all of a sudden you could just engage with the sellers, and they were just like, they're like, can he just maybe just change this, do that, right? Like, they really wanted you to win, because they liked you.
On top of that, though, there were other things you could do. Like, I remember I had a move I used to do. What would happen when we used to do offer presentations in person is typically it would be at the house or it would be at the brokerage's office. And the listing agent would be in a room or in a house with the sellers, and they would call agents in one by one, and you would present your offer, and then you'd go back out and wait in the waiting room, or you'd go back out and sit in your car like we talked about in the freezing cold, and everybody would present their offer. And after the first round, they would invite the agents back in one by one and say, listen, you're not the best offer, or you're very close. We're going to invite everybody to go back and improve their offer and come back and present. And we had a move. I remember Daniel Pustel, who used to work in our office, I did this with him. So we would go and present, we'd come back out, and we'd make sure all the agents could see us. And we'd go in for the second round, and when we walked out, we'd make sure all the agents can see us, and we pretended like, oh, we're out. We didn't get it. We didn't improve our offer. And we would get in our car and we would drive away. People would think we were leaving, but really we were just driving around the corner.
Right.
And it would fool these people into thinking we didn't improve our offer or we didn't have a chance. We were out of it. And that was the end of that. And then we'd end up getting the property because they wouldn't improve. They figured we were done. We would fool these people. So there was little tricks like that you could do back then.
No, it's a lost art. There's no doubt about it. It's very like emotionless. Like, again, I'm sitting in front of a computer.
Yeah.
And then I'm calling my client saying, hey, guys, listen, she's telling us we need to improve. Do I think we need to improve? Like, so it's a very different
you also had
strategy that you're trying to come up with, because you just, you know what, when you're looking at an agent face to face, it's easier to read whether they're actually bullshitting you, right? Like, versus on the phone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I mean, listen, like, they said we're not the best offer. The only way we can call their bluff is to say, fuck you. This is our price. We'll improve we're taking out the financing. We'll give you the completion date you want, but this is our price. That's the only way you call the bluff. But obviously your clients have to be prepared that they may lose that offer.
Yeah, the other factor is when you were there in person, you saw what was going on. Like the way we used it to fool agents, most people weren't thinking that way, and we could see like if he was BSing that there was another offer or not, because you'd see the agent go in, you'd see the agent come out. You also had the opportunity to be the first in. Like you could get in there, present your offer, tighten up your irrevocable time. You could control the situation, whereas in these circumstances you can't.
Right, and remember, you had to have sort of everything was already pre-initial, because you don't have the ability to go to your
100%.
Computer in your car to send a new DocuSign. We weren't using DocuSign.
Yeah, DocuSign changed the industry more.
Right,
than
we would
anything
go
else.
and have to get everything with a circle stamp.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, so I mean, again, the business has evolved, but I think COVID and sort of sellers liked the idea of being in the comfort of their home, where they don't have to have people coming through their houses, or they don't have to go to their agent's office for like 5 hours. But I think you're right. I think that there's a certain element that, people who enjoyed being in front of the sellers because they felt like they could connect with them and use that to their advantage is, they've lost that advantage.
Right. So bottom line, because, this is the first time attempting this, we're not going to go too long today. Bottom line, a question to finish on is it possible, do you think it's possible for an agent to come into this industry in this market and be successful?
100%. I mean, it depends on the individual, right? Like you've got to come in here knowing that you're going to you're prepared to pound the pavement. You're going to throw a ton of shit against the wall. A lot of it isn't going to stick, but that's not going to beat you down. It's not going to deter you from continuing to go, because real estate it's a numbers game. You've got to just keep at it. And as I said, but I still believe you need a little bit of luck. You need somebody who's willing to give you that opportunity. And, and then you go from there. But again, it's just like when the stock market's down.
You need a brokerage that's going to support you.
And of course, at the end of the day, it's all about the brokerage, because you need to be in a place where there's great leadership, that there's great mentoring. And
there you go.
Nobody's better than that than the Hammer, Captain Crisco.
There you go.
Darren Slavens.
On that note, buddy, I appreciate it. I think we actually made that last almost like 25, 30 minutes. I appreciate you being my first guest. I am positive our our surroundings will get better, and I will get better. But I really appreciate you being on here, and thank you.
My pleasure. Can't wait to do it again.
All right, brother. Thanks,
Cheers.
guys.